but I had come up with an idea when I was in university to, I just knew from my experience of living on the streets and um, living in addiction and stuff that I never saw any social workers do things kind of outside of office. And I know they do, but just with the living straight on the streets and encampments, things like that, there was the only time social workers ever really came around was to take people's kids away. Um, and I didn't want to be a social worker like that. I've always had kind of like a push against the system mentality as it is. Um, and I still carry that to this day, probably more so because I feel that now that I've learned about um, all this is, it's not even systemic gaps. Gaps are usually just like, I look at them as like things that people don't know are there, but everybody's pretty well aware of the gaps that are there and they don't get changed for good reason for the system anyway. So I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to have a regular job. I do have a career. It's like a full-time tattoo artist as well. So social work pays less than that. So it wasn't a financial motivator for me. Um, but I came up with this idea after reading this book called Sleeping Rough or Rough Sleepers. Sorry, um, and I just like it was everything that I had been thinking of, like and they had more and they went a different direction healthcare wise. Um, but basically, the gist of it was that you would have nurses and psychiatrists and doctors come right out to see people on the street rather than making people go to waiting rooms and sit there all day. And that was my what I had been kind of dreaming of in my head. My ideas changed a lot. I kept like a sort of a diary, I guess, of just like what any idea I had for this social work thing I was going to build. I wrote down as silly as it seemed. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, I've checked like quite a bit of those boxes off. And I like to go through it every now and again and just look. Um, but I've I've encountered like system pushback, um, like every single step of the way, and even ways that I wasn't even thinking of stepping. I'd go to step there, and there'd be some sort of pushback for something, and it burns you out, and it can turn I like it turns a lot of people bitter, um, and I get that, and it's like so it was really hard to stay kind of grounded and not bitter. But I have like a humorous attitude towards a lot of things, like whether it's dark humor sometimes, which goes with lots of frontline stuff. But it's kind of changed over the years to just realizing um, what the I wouldn't even say what mine and what like other frontline workers and people's limitations are because I feel that like the only thing limiting most people is the system. So I truly believe it's system limitations that is holding everybody back. So I just kind of I did my best to just keep an open mind and what like I guess I should have probably shared part of my backstory, but I didn't want this to seem like it was a like a recovery meeting because that's usually but that is where it all started. Um, and so I still knew a lot of people on the street um, when I got sober. Um, so that actually helped a lot with me being able to go into encampments and just crawl into tents and it'd be somebody that I knew and somebody whatever. So word got around that I was just basically I was just offering like a non-judgmental like um, harm reduction approach of whatever you need, I will help you get it. I did expect people to like put in some work, but I was a lot I don't know how to word it. Not a lot more lenient, but I've learned a lot over um, the years of like not being able to like you can't fix people. So and they have to want to put in the work too. But sometimes people do want to put in the work, they just aren't quite ready to show it, or they might not even know it. So it was it was kind of natural for me to um, just kind of always be there, and I wouldn't get angry. I'd feel disappointed sometimes when you'd put in a ton of work to get somebody into detox and do stuff, and then they wouldn't show up. And then I remembered it only took like one time of being upset, and I just remembered how many times like I was supposed to do that, and I just so it always came back to like I would always remember how I felt. So it's a constant like examining myself. Um, and like my judgments and biases and stuff like that until I truly was starting to feel like I wasn't having as many. And that was made a big difference because I was able to just go into it with, like here's some options for you. And if you want to, like we can do it. And if you're not ready yet, like here's how you can get a hold of me for when you are. And um, as corny as it sounds, it's kind of like the planting the seed thing. Um, but it worked a lot. And then lots of times it didn't work. But I kind of had to reevaluate, like, well, I didn't kind of have to. I've spoken lots um, in news articles and interviews, things like that, about how we have to like reevaluate our definition of success because what the government and what funders see as success is completely different from what's necessarily achievable with the resources people are given. So um, once I started like re-examining my definition of success, it was I was celebrating wins of people reaching out that 6 months before wouldn't even look at me or shied away from me or wouldn't even look me in the eyes. Like getting a hug from someone, all those things were success to me because it showed that like the one thing that I'm always adamant about and I will like I don't think it'll ever change for my the most important thing is relationships. And it does get that word does get tossed around a lot. Um, but true relationships are there, good or bad. Um, and sometimes relationships do end, as we all know. But I've found that like usually it's because something else is opening up, which is um, hard to do in the system we have now. So um, when I had my choice between working with like government or healthcare or anything, I chose that I wanted to work in community. Um, and it's sometimes, I guess, depending on how you look, sometimes it's viewed as a punishment financially, I guess, to work in community, but the rewards that aren't financial far outweigh anything that a bank account would ever show. And that mattered more to me. So I was one of the people that started the Regina Street Team, which is now currently, I'm not really sure, but our goal was to bring um, healthcare and social work, counseling to people directly on the street. And this is all the people that um, other people weren't finding. The people that stay hidden, the ones not even going to use the resources of meals and housing access, things like that in community groups. Basically, like I believe the city was calling them and the government was calling them the hardest to house. And it's a pretty accurate description because they are hard to house. Um, but everybody's hard to house right now because there's no housing. So that kind of definition's sort of gone for a loophole now. But um, the the premise of it was you just do what you have to do, and as like as a boss, I support people, train them, I always stand up for them, but I did expect them to pour their hearts into the work because that's what it was all about. Was that you didn't need a massive budget to make things happen. If you could just get everybody on, if you could just get people on board and to buy into the view of success, like it was doing wonders, and we were doing very well. Um, and some things, or yeah, I don't know. Either way, like um, I think I pushed the boundaries. What's the word? I pushed too hard for too long, I suppose. Where it was just like I don't um, in my mind I didn't really have time for meetings. Like I didn't want to be a polished um, worker, like, or a polished yes man, I guess you could say. And when I saw issues, I would just call them out because that's what you're supposed to do. Um, and all the money I spent on student loans for a social work degree, if that's the one thing I do, is make enemies with people that are causing problems for the people I'm trying to support, then that is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I did that until I got terminated for that, and then or not for that, but either way. But I nothing changed for me. I it actually it actually ended up being like a blessing in disguise because I didn't have like the system necessarily trying to hold me back anymore, so I could just go back to doing what I was doing fully, and I not clogged up with meetings, and that was the best thing for me. I was back to being happy. I was back to seeing all the people on the street all the time instead of being in stuffy meetings, talking about the same things every week and nothing ever changes. Um, so I never got the burnout from the actual work on the street. Like I did, but not at that time. That's not what was burning me out. It was the system that burned me out, and just a constant carousel of a little bit of up and then lots down and then just a straight line, which is we've been on this no big changes for so long that the only changes that seem to come are just negative ones right now. So especially in harm reduction, we're at a point where harm reduction will be basically eliminated as much as possible, for something that most people know probably isn't going to work as well as everybody thinks. So I'm not saying it won't work for anybody, but I do believe that there has to be harm reduction should be like a full thing, little bits of everything, all working together. I don't think one thing is better than the other necessarily. So the the relationships I made with SHA, I made relationships. I had them everywhere, and it was basically just from showing up and doing what you'd say you'd do. Um, I would trade treatment spots for free counseling, with places and be like, I'll come in and do free counseling. Even though I don't like counseling, but there was a means to an end. Like, um, I shouldn't say I don't like it, but that's not my life goal to be a counselor. But um, I'm lucky in the sense that the counseling that I do is I get to sit in like alleys and sit in parks and dark basements, which doesn't sound fun, but for me it is. But things like that. So I don't have offices. It's completely mobile, and I really I don't need like a phone line where the general public can call me. I just have messenger accounts and phone numbers, and people on the street call me, and organizations call me, which is what I always wanted it to be. Um, so my my goals have sort of shifted in a way, and I was just saying it out loud the other day, and I caught myself because it was the first real time that I'd heard myself say it, and it kind of stuck. Was that like people were asking me about like my private practice for counseling, and I'm always honest, and I just said like I don't really want to do counseling. Like I'll do it, and it's a means to an end. But my biggest goal for counseling is to get people to believe that they deserve counseling, they deserve the opportunity to like heal and everything like that. So if I can get them to a place where they don't think that counseling is like it is in the movies, where they're just getting examined and someone's writing it down on a paper, how many personalities they have or whatever somebody's doing. If I can get them to a point where they can like themselves enough and just believe that they deserve this, then that's wonderful. Then I can pass them on to somebody that can take it to the next step. And of course, like I'm still always involved. I still talk to all the people that I've moved on to another counselor that can do some more in-depth stuff. And I help with other things. But it's just, that was my biggest thing when I was on the street and when I was addicted. And for years was the fact that because of like sexual abuse, because of alcoholism in the family, because of tons of other stuff, like I did not feel that I was worth anything. And I just hated myself. So I always remember what that felt like. And I remember every time that I used drugs, there was so many times in the last few years where I just like, I knew I didn't want to do it, but I just had I didn't know anything else. So carrying that feeling with me and um, knowing that there's always like almost always a good person inside. It's just somebody that's hurt, and for good reason, has been everything that I've always needed to just like keep carrying on. And just like my wife teases me because she says that she watches me, she gets jealous because not because of other women, but because of homeless people, houseless people, because I'll just go give them hugs and I throw around I love yous, but she said I have a hard time doing it at home. So, but and I don't really, but probably compared to that. But it's just I never heard I love you when I was on the street, and I never heard anybody like remember my name unless it was like somebody I ran with or anything like that. So I took those little things of remembering names, complimenting shoes, just little things like because people do lots of times try and look their best, and it's like just having somebody notice that or remember your name. And I had a long list of birthdays, like, and just to try to find the person, just like to do things that, I don't know, just to show people they mattered, kind of. So it was basically like, and the corporation I started was, I named it Kinder Connections. My dad had a construction company called Kraushaar Construction, so the initials were KC, and he would never let me. He told me at a very young age that he would sell it before he'd ever let me take it over because I'd ruin it, and rightfully so, I guess. But so I just wanted something that had the same initials, so I could essentially just say like, whatever, I did my own then, and you can't have it. But um, so I went with Kinder, but my first day on the street of like telling people about it because they were asking, and I gave someone like wrote it down for someone. They're like, "You mean like Kinder eggs?" And then that was it. And I was like, "Man," so I just never say it anymore. But that was, but yeah. So I don't know, and that's what it was supposed to be, was like a kinder way to connect people, which wasn't just like pointing and saying that's where the your appointment is. Go ahead. It's like, hey, I'll go with you and I'll sit with you if you want me to, or I'll sit out here in the waiting room, like do whatever. And it it's really sad to see when you go into an office and you know someone from the street and you know what their issues are, and you listen to how a doctor will talk to them, and or just like brush them off completely, or really just ignore them and just look straight at you like you're some kind of handler for them. um, and it just took some reminding for doctors, being like, hey, like, I'm just here so you can talk to, you can talk to him or her. You can talk to them, like they can answer. But it's just giving people that confidence, that like, and knowing that they have somebody that'll fight for them. Like, as long as they're willing to fight, then they have somebody that'll also help back them up. And that was, it made me kind of a lot of enemies probably in healthcare, because I was like just dreaded showing up. But I made me a lot of friends in detox and things like that, and we would fast track people and do all these things. And I had calls from everywhere to try and get people into detox, and if they were willing to do the work, like the big argument I had a meeting with detox and was like, look, I can't pick successful people because everybody said I wouldn't be successful. So I can't, I'm not a good judge of that. But I can tell you that, like, if somebody doesn't have a mom or dad to sit and hide out in a basement and make them chicken soup while they withdraw, while they wait for treatment, then what are they supposed to do? Of course they're not going to, of course they're not going to make it. So I was like, just let me bring the people that have nowhere to go, that want treatment and detox like that fast. And so we got it down to a system where it really honestly was like lots of times same day, at least for brief detox. And the detox was doing amazing things, working with people because they saw the same problems and same issues, but they just didn't have a way to do outreach. So it kind of worked hand in hand in a sense. And that's where I made my biggest um, jumps with being able to offer more support to people, was just building those relationships and being able to, one of my favorite things was getting messages from like random accounts from healthcare workers being like, here's what's happening, but we're not allowed to say anything. Do you mind? And of course I do, because I always said like nobody can fire me before I got my actual job, because I was doing it for free for before. um, and then I learned my lesson because I did get fired. But either way, it was the best, because that's what you're supposed to do. If somebody can't speak up for whatever reason, then I got to like, and I considered it an honor to be like trusted with that, because and same with people on the street, it is an honor to be able to speak up for people, and not even up for them, just alongside them. And if you, in my opinion, like I am a white guy. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious since I'm sitting behind the brightest white backdrop here. But my lots of my family is Indigenous through marriage, and they live on reserve. And um, most of my work, I did a practicum at All Nations Hope Network, and I just never left. Basically, like whether it was a volunteer or I stayed on volunteering, um, doing some night shifts at the warming center, just doing whatever. And then um, but when we had the street team and everything, I stayed focused on that area. I did the whole city, but North Central is where my heart is, because um, that's where I was based when I was not doing well. Um, and there's different struggles there than other places in the city. But in my opinion, the people there are the most beautiful people in the city. Um, there's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain unless you've been there. It's just like you read about the scary things that happen there, but at the same time, it's like nobody talks about all the good things and the community coming together and there's just so many good things. A lot of hurt too, though, but a lot of that neighborhood gets overlooked for the bad and just concentrate on the bad things. But I just never left, and I still don't. So I all nations kind of welcomed me. Well, kind of, they did. Like trial by fire was basically it. And my first day, I gave away my belt, I think, to somebody that had no belt, and then one of the workers is just gave it to me later and was like, "You'll lose your shoes and your socks and your little gitch too if you keep giving it." She's like, you got to learn to point people in the direction. We have like a donation room, so you don't have to. And that was a big eye opener for me. And I was like, okay, I probably still gave away a bunch of belts over time, but either way, now that I've my you can't see my belly, but I don't need a belt as much as I do anymore or did back then. But it was a big learning process for me, and especially, and I was told right at the start, like, um, you're a white guy behind the counter, they're going to give you a hard time. And I was so used to my cousins meaning on me growing up all the time that it was like just like being at grandma and grandpa's for Christmas. Like it was no different, and I just like fell right into it, and it was fun, and it was like the most wholesome experience that I had as a practicum, and it really helped shape my goal for what I was doing now and what I still do. And I'm still very close with them, and the people that go there and utilize the services, because I don't know, it's a rare place in Regina for sure. Um, but that helped mold like my and shape the way I looked at healthcare, the things that I thought. I always consider myself not to be like stereotypical, and I don't have stereotypes. I'm not racist, but then you sit and see things, and like you catch yourself thinking things, like when it comes to healthcare and things like that, and it's just like a thing that we're grown up and taught. But like, um, just being around all that, like it was a constant self reflection. It almost seemed like mean to myself to just be like, man, I'm some of my judgments and stuff like that. But it also felt like it also passed forward to like the way I looked at healthcare workers, because I kind of threw them all into the same lump of like, oh, SHA's this. So I would just assume that all workers were like that. And it was very unfair of me to do. So I, my wife might not say that I've grown a lot in the last 5 years. I probably sure don't listen better. She'll say that, that's for sure. But um, she's always supported the fact that I am like, I just will get something in my head and then I'll just do it. And if somebody tells me I can't, um, that's that's all the motivation I need to know that, maybe I should um, try at least. So that's what I just continued doing. Um, and then I don't know if I've gotten off topic, but like one of the things that I'm well known, or I don't know about well known, but one of the things I'm known for and for what's doing and still do is going into trap houses to do healthcare. So I would get calls from sometimes dealers, sometimes gang members, sometimes just people on the street that would call me and just be like, hey, so and so. And lots of times it was stab wounds. Lots of times I've dealt with gunshot wounds that were a few days old, obviously not really bad ones, but it's people that are too scared to go to the hospital or they can't go for whatever reason. Um, and I started getting volunteer paramedics that all kind of like worked like it was meant to be, because I would have these things happen. And like, don't get me wrong, I am not a nurse. I do not bandage super clean, like, or not super clean, but like very well. I remember bandaging a girl's toe in at the city hall in Cameron, and I made her big toe like this big, like just wrapping it around, because I was like, well, I don't want it to come off. And then she still teases me about it because she's like, man, it was very sweet of you, but like that was ridiculous. Like I could not. She's like, I didn't. Yeah. So, but I've learned that less bandaging's better. So I had some nurses like train me and people like that and paramedics, and I tried to take some classes and just learned to like, okay. Um, but things like that, because the basic healthcare is people are not going to sit in an emergency room, whether they're getting treated like crap or whether the police will get called or for whatever other reason. Lots of times it does have to do with the fact that they'll go into withdrawals while they're there. So they don't sit and wait. So taking the healthcare to the trap houses, and I was doing counseling there. Um, I had some. I do have some very colorful stories about things that have happened to me because I always worked alone. um, so uh, the goal was to get people to just trust the system. Like, even though I didn't consider myself part of the system, I definitely was because I have a degree. Like, working in it, report to a authority board or whatever you want to call it, oversight board. But I still don't necessarily consider myself part of that system. But I do know my way around it, and I know how to work around it. And you just gotta. One thing I've learned is that you just gotta find the right people that see the same problems as you. They're tired of seeing people dying. They're tired of seeing the same people come every day just for because of one stupid thing, whether it's a ride in the morning to get back to the appointment, or whether it's being referred to a doctor that's way in the East End when they've never been out of North Central. Um, Things like that, and have no bus money. So it was finding those little things, and there's tons of workers that are tired of it and they're just over it. And then it just kind of became a like, well, I can do this, and they're like, well, I can do this, like, here's what you can do. And it just became this big workaround together of so many different, there was so many different moving pieces of like, I spent so much of my time on the phone, it was crazy. um, just texting, calling, can you do this, can you help with this? And it like, it kind of became um, like, I know they have HIPAA and stuff like that, where they don't release any information, but I've always argued like there's like a circle of care aspect to it, that if I know that somebody has an appointment, or I know that somebody needs to pick up HIV meds, and but the place that has them has no way of getting a hold of them, am I helping their healthcare? Am I helping their well-being by not like telling them that they have medication there? Like, so it just becomes this thing of like, okay, you don't need Nate, like, you don't need the full story, you don't need anything, you just need, this person needs to get here, and I don't even need to know what for. And then I tell them, most times they'd know, and they'd be like, oh man, I forgot, like, thank you. So you take them there, things like that. So the circle of care thing became a big part of it, because um, without phones and without transportation, without computers, without everything, like, people are we're wasting millions on the fact that we could, like, simple solutions, like, and it's just, doctors used to go to people's houses all the time. So why do we stop that? I get that there's fear and safety and things like that, but when there's people that don't have that fear and don't have those safety issues with it, then bring them on and get it to a point where, I did have some doctors that said, like, I can't actually go in there, but I will sit outside if you can bring the person outside. Like, I can do that without getting in trouble. So just things like that, little wins like that. Um, and that's basically what kind of motivates me. And I'm back to, I wouldn't say square one, but I'm back to doing just that, and just concentrating now on North Central and some in the Heritage neighborhood, because I do tattoo there. So I usually, it sounds really bad, but I usually do about like 1 to 3 overdose each day that I'm there, and I'm there like 5 6 days a week. So, and that's just walking to work, and like from where I park, like a block or so away, and then I do my North Central stuff um, all the other times. So I'm heading there this afternoon too. So um, pushing healthcare boundaries and system boundaries is the most fun you can have as a social worker, but you also need like a community of other people that are doing the same thing to kind of talk about it, because it is a lonely island to to be on sometimes. But and like, I'm gonna be honest, that like, I've I do work mostly, like, I guess I do work mostly with Indigenous organizations, but like, I work with as many organizations as possible that have things to do with people on the streets. So there isn't many that I don't work with, unless that's their choice for whatever reason. Maybe I don't do the stuff they do, but I do talk to most of them. But I do find that um, working in North Central, and they these organizations that I work with have been the most open minded for things and change, and I've learned so much just on the way that I carry myself. um, uh, like in dealing with things that like I don't know how to word it. It's kind of like the like not everybody has to know everything all the time. So you just do your work, get done what you have to do, and it doesn't need to be a big spectacle of like look what I did. And I've learned that by watching and like I've seen um the biggest successes in relations sorry, I'm moving my camera. Biggest successes in relationships built off of like the humbleness of just doing your work. And I've learned that. So it's been nice, it's been eye opening, and it's been hard, lots of ups and downs. But like I said, this is probably the being unemployed is probably the happiest I've been in a long time. So figure that out. My dad would not understand that, but it's true. I have less stress now, but I got theoretically I'm not unemployed. I do lots of stuff, but I just I don't know. I don't know how to word it. My wife says I can't work for anybody because I don't listen, but I think it's just because I don't know. I just kind of like to be a free spirit about it. It kind of that way I'm not disappointed anybody with not following their rules, and they don't have to worry about me because I'm just follow whatever I have to do. So I don't know. Is there anything like that you guys like? I can get into way more specific stuff if people have questions or anything. Like I was just trying to give a broad view of the system barriers, and we all know there's so many, but I feel like lots of times people ask me what barriers I see in the system, and most of the time the people in the attendees will have more answers and better answers than I would. Um, so like
Amazing. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that definitely transitions us to the Q&A if that works. And then I just would like to thank you for that. That was amazing. I was thinking you're like Batman, like in the dark of night, taking care of the people.
well, I'm glad you put in that last part because otherwise it
Yeah,
sounds real.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I guess you know what? I'll start because I do have a question, and then maybe our attendees, you can put it in the chat, or
Yeah,
you can raise your hand, and I can allow you to talk. I guess it says.
I'm
But I
grabbing
guess
my
we get it started. Um, my question for you is, how do you kind of take care of yourself? Because you did kind of touch on that a few times. Like, how do you fill your cup when these things are so like the system is so broken and exhausting, and you just like you keep on doing the good work, but like what do you do to fill your own cup?
I always dread that question. Somebody's always got
Sorry.
no, it's okay, but I'm getting asked that lots in social work about like self care, and the university will get me to come talk to students and be like, that's the first thing always. Um, is like self care, and and of course it's very much needed. So like, um, there's a lot of different things I do. I feel like I'm very fortunate because like tattooing is like it is like self care to me because it's like an art form that I get to do that I didn't think I'd get to. Been doing it 28 years. Made like a good go at it, but it is also work, so it's tricky. So lots of times it doesn't get considered, but I like I do have to recharge my batteries because I'm an introvert sort of at heart, but I like when I'm out in public, like I'm on, and like anybody that knows me will know I'm probably on too much, like where they wish I'd be more of an introvert sometimes. But um, I find that spending time with my family, um, reading is a massive one for me. Um, I've kind of switched. Oh, this isn't even my cat. This is one of my daughter's cats. So, um, but yeah, I find that like I've had to switch what I was reading because I used to always read things that would like I thought would advance my knowledge into what I was doing, and I was like actually adding to my burnout of just like reading more and more about social work stuff and the real life stories. So I kind of switched to now I read about like sometimes dragons and stuff. I don't know it's different, like more fantasy stuff because it's lighter on my brain and it allows me to sort of like escape. So reading has honestly probably been one of the biggest things that I do, but like reading for fun again, drawing, spending time with friends. Uh, I do go to, I did do EMDR um, for like self care. I guess that's not really self care, but like for professional care, I guess, and human care, and it helped like a ton. But the cost is a lot, so it just became like where I couldn't. But um, my but like I got better enough that I could pass for a little longer, I guess. The good way of saying it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I really do struggle with the self care aspect and taking care of myself. I was going to sweats. I mean, I pray and smudge quite a bit. Um, and that's been probably my saving grace most of all, just to kind of keep me grounded. Um, and other than that, just lots of the self care stuff was going to the doctor and like actually just being honest about things that were going on. And I realized my experience with going to doctors is different than somebody else's, but um, just realizing that like I needed to take care of myself before I could do anything because it was just getting out of hand. So the system burnout was always going to be there, and it's going to get worse. And it's it's way different, but just kind of knowing, kind of learn like what I can handle and what I can't, and then still pushing that boundary as much as possible, I guess. So I don't know if that really answered the question, but
So definitely. And then I don't know if you can see in the chat, Allison just said that I think a piece that gets misunderstood is that self care cannot address a trigger. If you are triggered
mhm.
at work, that takes a whole different approach to taking care of your own needs as a helper.
Yeah, no, I fully agree because that's like in university they talked about, and like lots of people still talk about. I remember hearing an argument in class one day at the U of R about how self care had to be something. It can't be something you just do for free. Like you have to treat yourself, so it has to cost you money. Like you have to go get your nails done or spend money. And I just remember thinking that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And if that's the kind of attitude that's going out to work on the streets, we're all screwed because there's because in for that argument then well then I guess buying meth is self-care for me when I was on the streets because that's all I could afford or all I would afford. So um, I think people have a big misconception of like the self-care and like and you're right, the triggers um it is a big thing, and it's something that like reading and stuff can't really take care of. There's things like counseling, there's and ceremony helps lots, and whether the ceremony is somebody going to sweats or whether it's going to church, like it doesn't matter what it is, you find your thing. Like I'm a Christian and I still go to sweats. um, so maybe I'm not a good Christian, I don't know how it works, but it depends who you ask, I suppose. But I just feel that whatever relationship gets me closer to God and creator, that's what matters most, so I keep that in the back of my head. um, but the triggers, like I used to have triggers. I was supposed to be a palliative social worker, that's what I wanted to be, and then when my my first wife died in palliative, I decided, screw that. I don't want to, like I just didn't want to go there anymore. I still go there, and I just learned that I could just volunteer there and just do social work other places. So, but that triggered me hearing about people like losing their wives and things like that, or hearing like a single mom on the street and meeting and talking with that has cancer, but doesn't seem to think that she should be going to the appointments and stuff because right now she doesn't have her kids. um, and I get that hopelessness, but that was a trigger for me, and I had to work on that because those are things that I went through, like as a caretaker and as a husband. um, and it's just those things. No book was fixing that, so it was the actual talking. um, and yeah, I do think that self-care cannot address a trigger at all. That's a good point because I think that does get misunderstood. There's a lot of working on yourself constantly, and I think in order to be the best kind of like, I don't even know frontline workers the right answer for or the right name for it. It's just like the best kind of helper, I guess, and best person to be able to support people on the street or whatever you're doing is like you have to like rip yourself all the way down and build it back up because we like, man, I am not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was like 11 years ago. And like, funny thing is, like today, um, I went to rehab and went through all that. And when I got out of like gang unit remand, I ended up having to go to rehab for a year. But I didn't know like what my last use was. Like I just couldn't remember. It was such a blur. I'd been in the hospital for like 3.5 months before that, like on dialysis, and I had heart surgery, all from drugs and IV drugs. And then so I had to like pick a day that I was Like everybody's like, you got to know when your clean day is. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like maybe it's the first day I remember having a shower. How's that sound? Like after getting out of whenever. So I picked a day, and that day is like today, which is like 11 years ago today. And I just realized it this morning when I was signing on, because like I don't even pay attention. Like I don't go to meetings. I don't even think I told my wife, so I'm just gonna lord it over her all day and just hope that she guesses, and maybe I'll get a cake or something. But um, things like that, like I am not the same person I was back then. Um, and like I tore myself down so many times over the years, but not in a negative way, just like constantly reevaluating what I thought I knew. Because really, in essence, and excuse my language, but what I thought I knew was shit. It was nothing. Like I didn't know. Nothing I learned in school applied to anything I did in social work, if I'm being honest. Like, and that's not a popular opinion. I shouldn't maybe say nothing, but um, very little. So lived experience, learning from the people. Um, you could. I'm like, I try to push for the university to like. At this point, I'm trying to push for to get my master's, maybe only because that's the only way they'll let me teach. But I want to teach like an actual outreach class. But in my opinion, there should be, I'm bringing in somebody from the street that can sit there and say, like, okay, here's what happens when you go to social services. Like, people need to see these interactions and need to see these things as they are, because when you get out of school, you don't even know how to fill out cis or set papers. Like, you don't know how to fill out status card stuff. In fact, in school, you believe that almost every Indigenous person on the street is status. Um, and then you get out there and realize that that is not true at all. So there's no wonder they're not getting the health care. There's no wonder they're not getting this stuff, because they're in limbo. So these are, yeah. Sorry, I got a little off topic. I get kind of passionate about some stuff, um, but yeah, like the back to the comment, I guess it's just like you got to tear yourself down, or I did at least, in order to rebuild myself. And I did it. It's like Lego. You just keep building different things as the need grows, and like as you grow, I guess, if that makes sense.
Can I just say something to Robert?
Yeah, as long as it's good. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
it
kidding.
is. It certainly is. I've got nothing else to say about you but something that's good. What I hear you talking about is what they used to call the artist's eye in self-care. And so you say you were not the same person you were 10 years ago or even a year ago. Well, every day you've developed differently. Every day is a different, you add on to your knowledge. And they say that in our hand is our whole life. You've got physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And this is the thing that controls everything. That's the creator. And then all those things, when you take the creator into those and you create things in your life, and you have done so. And one of the things that they say about the artist's eye in self care is that it's always in flux, it's always moving, it's always changing. So your self care will continually advance in different ways and different venues. So it may be reading one time, 1 year that might be the thing, and then it'll be something else. But it's not like art in where they do painting and music and that kind of thing. It's totally different. It's like you are the art piece, and you are taking that self-care and making it whatever works for you isn't always going to work for somebody else, because it's you, and you came into this world to reflect the creator's goodness. So when I know for a fact how there's more people that I could probably name that you've saved their lives here.
Mhm.
And really put yourself in really tight positions sometimes in order to do that, but did it anyway. And that in itself is a part of that artist's side of being able to take things and move it around in your life. You're constantly building on who you are and making that picture of who Robert really is, because that's what
Mhm.
you were sent here to do. It's not like the creator is saying, well, let's see what this guy is going to do today. The creator already knows. The creator
Mhm.
is already behind everything that you've done, and how you've learned to be in community and how to embrace community. And to know that those people out there are all wounded, they all have wounds, and they cover those wounds with the drugs and the different things. It's not like no one grows up wanting to be addicted. No, I want to be addicted. That's what nobody says that. They all want to be either a fireman or a hockey player or you name it. But none of them want to be that, right? None of them
Mhm.
say that's their goal. And so the Creator has placed them in that path so that we can reflect on different ways of people's lives. And through an artist's eye, they learn that unique thing called self-care in that place that they say harm reduction. It's reducing that stuff for yourself. It's learning to know and who you really are physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and being connected back to the Creator. And you know those things on a daily basis, what will draw you to the Creator in different ways. And one of the ways is doing it is going back in with all, to places that other people feel are scary and everything else. But you know that that's going to make a huge difference, not only for those people that you're helping, but also for yourself to build that picture of who Robert really is and who you were
Mhm.
sent here to be. And I think it's phenomenal. I really do. I really think you're you're not even halfway through, Hate to tell you that, but you got a long way to go yet, Robert.
No, yeah, thank you for that, because it is like I do question whether I'm turning 46 soon, and I was like, but I didn't get my. I just had this discussion with somebody I was tattooing, and they're like, "Man, I just feel like she's recently gotten sober, so she booked a tattoo, and like, I had like been part of her getting her into treatment off the street kind of journey thing, and then I was so happy to see her because she just looks amazing, like the person that I knew when I first saw years ago. And things are going good. And she's like, I just feel so far behind because I don't like. And I was like, what do you feel far behind about, like for your age? And she's only like, I don't know. I think she's like 30 maybe. And I was like, what do you like? You feel far behind because you don't own a house, like things like that. And she's like, well, kind of. I was like, neither do I. I was like, and I probably never will at this point, but that's okay. But I was like, you're only far behind, like if you keep comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing. I was like, you're never going to be on the same level. So I was like, honestly, I was like, you've already done more things than those most people can even dream of. That's the stuff that they literally pay money to go see in movies because they like,
It's
you know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I think it was eye opening for her in the sense that she's like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And I was like, man, if I compared myself to like my family, like I have cousins that are doctors, whatever, and when I see them at Christmas, they laugh because when we have the same last name, but anytime anybody asks them if they're related to, they already know and they laugh. And they're my one cousin's like, I've been in medical journals, I've been in everything, and it's not me that they're always asking about. He's like, it's just nice that they're finally saying like, oh, I read he got arrested in the paper. He's like, it's nice that they're finally saying like different things than that. And I was like, he's like, now I can admit that I'm related to you. I was like, well, that's wonderful. But those are, you know what I mean? Like I'm farther ahead in different things than other people. And it's just like
That's
the changing the
reality.
success thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like
Yeah.
constantly evaluating how we look at ourselves. So I appreciate hearing that because
It's true.
I don't, I don't know if I want to know that I mean, I really don't want to be done. Like, I don't think I'm even close to done. I still haven't.
No.
Yeah. My goal was still to like help build something and then have it um, transferred over, not transferred over, but like the street team was always supposed to be Indigenous led and with Indigenous peers, hiring people from the street. And I managed some of that, but then it just didn't. So I know I still have that goal of like things that need to happen. And so I'm tired though. So I don't know, maybe I'll get some rest this summer and then be back at her, but I'm still giving her now. So I don't think it's even close to over yet. It's just a matter of things are going to change as to how they're done, but I'm still doing things. I don't know. I figure as long as you're honest and doing things that need to be done, a lot of people think I'm somewhat retired or not doing anything because I don't post on social media about it, but I've never been like that. I would prefer things to go unseen than be videotaping people. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, we're lucky to have you in our community. That's all I
Thank
can
you.
say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot. That's a community that I'm happy to be in for sure.